Hey guys, what's up? Thanks for stopping back by the channel. Appreciate y'all being here. Thanks for watching. Today's video, I'm going to talk about two different subjects. One, I want to talk about one of the comments a viewer of mine made earlier on, and the other one, we're going to talk about OJT, on-the-job training. That's the phase that you move into after you graduated the academy and when you're newly reported to the unit before you're actually assigned to a shift. Now, one of the comments one of the viewers made, I can't post it on here because I haven't learned all the inner workings of YouTube yet, but still working on it. The gist of it was the individual, from what I understand, I haven't talked to this individual, I don't know them, I just know the comment. They mentioned that they were thinking about moving to Texas to take a job with this agency, basically uproot themselves from wherever they are, take a job with this agency and go from there. And commented that from viewing my videos, now they seem a little bit weary, maybe unlikely to uproot themselves and come to the agency, and seemed concerned about the PAT, the physical agility test. Let me address the physical agility test. Nobody should worry about that. I'm not going to say nobody fails that, quotations. I don't know how you would fail the PAT unless you just got there and decided, I don't want to do this thing. If you put forth the effort and you do the steps with what you're supposed to do, you are going to pass that PAT. Do not let it scare you. It is absolutely nothing like the Army, the Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, Navy. It's nothing like the physical fitness test that we have to take every year. I say we because right now I'm in the Coast Guard. Have been for 16 years now. But that PAT is nothing like that. It's a general assessment of your agility and can you perform certain tasks. Pull a weight, climb a ladder, climb stairs, because they're all things that you're going to be doing on that job every single day. My advice to the viewer who posted that comment, unfortunately, I can't tell you what the right decision is. All I'm doing on these videos is putting out my experiences with the agency, and they are the honest truth. They're my experiences alone. Everyone's will vary. Somebody else could be doing another video posting about how great the agency is and how it's unlocked everything for them and it's met their goals. The fact that I'm not with the agency anymore means that it did the opposite for me, and that's what these videos are centered toward about. The only thing I could say to this individual and to anybody else who may be out of state planning to come to work for this agency, weigh your options carefully. I would hate for anybody to be in a situation to commit themselves to an agency that's their sole reason for moving to Texas to take that job and go from there, and Lord forbid it doesn't work out. I don't know what the turnover rate or the recidivism rate is. I know that it's high. I can guarantee that. I know a lot of people who don't make a week in that agency. I saw it. I dealt with it. Just be very cautious. Have your ducks in line. If this is the plan that you're going to make, have an alternate plan. Have an escape route. I can't tell you what that is. Just have an alternate plan in case for some reason this doesn't work. This happens to a lot of individuals. So I hate to sound very, what's the word, humdrum or down or just not supportive. All I'm saying is be careful. Make sure that you have an alternate plan if this doesn't work. If it does, great. I'm absolutely happy for that. Texas, it needs its corrections officers. It really does. With that said, we'll go ahead and move into today's topic. I want to talk a little bit more about the OJT phase. In a previous video, I listed about how you report to your FTO, the hours that you work. When you're on OJT, it's kind of like a unit tour in a way. You get to view everything throughout the penitentiary that you're going to be working in. The chapel, laundry, the library, chow hall. Not so much the actual chow hall, back end where all the food's being cooked. You work with the food service managers to see how they supervise the offenders that cook the food back there. You're going to work general population, add seg. You're going to work the back gate. Excuse me. You're going to work a picket as well. Usually it would be about an hour or so. Pretty much every one of us had wristwatches. You couldn't have your cell phone, so you needed a watch to be able to tell time. Our long sleeve shirts, they weren't the best in the world. They could be a little uncomfortable. They weren't sized very well. Mine would come down to the cuff of my hand right here. I usually had to take the sleeve, unbutton it, and fold it over. And quite a few sergeants and lieutenants would stop me and say, "Hey officer, that's not the proper way to wear that uniform." The wrong answer was to say, "It doesn't fit right." The right answer was to say, "Yes sir, fix it." And what I did when they were out of view, right back to where it was. Does that make me a dirtbag? Whatever. Gotta do what you gotta do. So you would usually spend about an hour, hour and 5, hour and 10 or so. My wristwatch, I usually wore it looped around my belt. Your shirt was always tucked in. You had a black leather belt that the state had issued. I would keep it looped around that belt so I could just glance down at it, almost like I'm looking at a stopwatch in a pocket. And that was usually a good indicator of when it was time to move on. You'd work day shifts within these different areas of the penitentiary. You'd work some night shifts as well. You'd work ad seg at night, ad seg during the day, gen pop during the day, gen pop during the night. And they were all completely different. Day shift did things that night shift never did. Night shift would do things day shift never did. After about the first week, you had pretty much seen all the admin kind of locations that you could go to. The last thing that we would do at the end of our day, now this was always subjective, the mailroom always needed help. Previous video I talked about we would go there, open offender mail, remove the stamp, look through the letters, see if there was any contraband. You could usually count on about an hour to sometimes 2 hours of your day being in the mailroom sorting through the mail. I hated that. Anytime it was time for CO3 Carter to report to the mailroom, I would drag my feet going there. You couldn't have a more, my opinion, you couldn't have a more dull assembly line kind of a job than sorting through mail and reading through comments that people would make to these damn offenders. Just, oh, it could be dirty, it could be vulgar, and not very pleasing to the eyes. I just didn't care for it. To the individuals that do that job, shout out to you. You're commended. Now the job there is important because it does help control the flow of contraband. I just personally didn't care for it. I signed up to be a corrections officer, not a mailroom clerk, but that's how you're going to get used when you're on OJT. When it's time for lunch, when you're working your day shift, you're going to be outside patting down offenders. If you don't like patting down offenders, probably not going to like being a corrections officer. That's a huge part of the job. That's a way to control the flow of contraband. So, at the end of our first week, we'd have our weekend off, work Monday through Friday, 8 to 1400. That's 2 o'clock in the evening, 1500, 3 o'clock in the evening. Well, you can tell military time, take 12 o'clock, at whatever time it is, 3 p.m., 12 plus 3, 15, 1500. 5 p.m., 12 plus 5, 1700, all the way up to 2400, which is midnight, which we just say midnight 0000, and then it starts over from there. So it really depended on when Officer Lewis needed to get off for the day. She kind of set her own hours as the FTO. She didn't report to a shift, she reported directly to the warden. And her job was to make sure that the OJT officers had exposure to all the agencies. I say agencies, the different areas of the penitentiary, and that they had had a chance to meet with the shift supervisors, let the shift supervisor get a feeling for you, and have you assigned to the shift. Her job was not to work buildings, pickets, anywhere else. It was just what it is, field training officer. So by the end of that first week, we had our weekend off. We were off Saturday, Sunday, back into work Monday. Now, come that Monday, as I've already said, we had pretty much seen all the admin areas. I want to say by then we had already had our TB shot. Give you a little stick in the arm, and then you go back to get it read. It's usually within 4 to 5 days, give or take. I think most of us that Monday went to medical and get our TB checked to make sure that we were all negative from that. The 5 of us that went, we were all negative, of course, otherwise we wouldn't have had a job there. From there, we worked with the pat-down group. I don't remember what their actual term was. It wasn't pat-down group. There was an official state name. These were corrections officers that would go to the buildings. Officers that work buildings are usually busy with inmates. They're doing count, feeding chow, patting down, moving around the room. They get to cell searches as often as they can, but I'm going to be honest with you, most of the time they're not very thorough. There's just a time constraint, and it's tough to get it all in. These guys' main job, I say guys, gals as well, was to travel throughout the penitentiary, pick different areas, and search the buildings. Open up cells, move inmates out, and look for contraband. We do a couple of tours with those individuals. That was to let them feel us out, see who we were, so that way when we had put enough time in at the agency, you needed at least 12 months at the unit to be able to apply for this group. They could see if you were a good fit for it. Do you complain about the heat? Do you complain about getting in small, tight spaces? Can you physically get in small, tight spaces? There are larger corrections officers that work for the agency. They can't get into these tight spaces. They're not a good fit for this unit. It just is what it is. That's things that was felt out. We did a couple of tours with those guys, and that was when we started predominantly working the buildings and working the segregation building, so we could start seeing what the day shift was like, what night shift was like, let the officers who worked there feel us out, and start, what would be the good word, addressing our opinions, stating our opinions about which ones that we thought that we would be a good fit for. A newly hired CO, you're either going to be working buildings and general population, or you're going to be working the segregation building. You're not going to be in laundry, chow hall, library, none of that. You're going to be in buildings with offenders up in your face, or you're going to be in the seg building moving offenders around that are restrained all day. That's how it's going to start off. It's like that for everybody unless you hired on as a supervisor. I think around Wednesday or Thursday was when, instead of the 5 of us coming in, this is where we would start doing different shifts. One would do day shift, ad seg. One would do night shift, general population. I don't remember exactly what days I did mine. I think by Wednesday, I want to say, was when I did night shift, general population. Thursday, I did night shift, ad seg. Friday was when we put in our final assignment. Which one do you want to work? Day shift seg, night shift seg, day shift gen pop, night shift gen pop. One of those. And you waited the weekend, come in Monday morning, and that's when you would find out what you were assigned to. I'd put in for day shift ad seg. I having a memory loss there. Day shift ad seg. I wanted to be where the action was. I wanted to be where it rock and rolled. And to me, that was where it was. Everybody's going to have a different opinion on their shifts. That's just how it was. I don't want to keep this video very long, as it already is. In our next video, I'm going to talk about the experience that I had with these different shifts, night shift, population, day shift, ad seg, and what led up to me making my decision for where I wanted to work. I really appreciate you guys checking out this video. Stay safe, stay hydrated. It's hot outside. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you guys in the next one.